Hi, Ilana.
Hey,
Congratulations on being one of the award-winning stories in this year's contest.
yeah, thanks so much. I was
Um,
really excited to find out.
can you tell me a little bit about where the idea of your story came from?
The stories I write tend to be tied to emotions or themes I'm trying to kind of investigate or interrogate for myself. Um, they'll sometimes then become hypothetical, like what would happen if this person were in that type of situation. So this story in particular, about a year and a half ago, the father of someone I grew up with passed away. It happened to be the week of the anniversary of Kristallnacht. And something about that juxtaposition spoke to me. I did attend his funeral on Zoom. It just felt so kind of insufficient compared, it was in the middle of a work day compared to going to a funeral and Shiva in person. It falls so short. And I think working on early drafts of the story helped me process his loss in a more effective way. And I think kind of that combined with, I typically tend to be interested in moments of transition, moments with like a before and after, and what that's like for the person experiencing the moment, what that's like for people, observing someone experiencing that type of moment. And that also contributed to the story. So it became an exploration of, what it means to become an adult, specifically a Jewish adult, in America, and kind of the awareness and vigilance that requires.
Tell us briefly what it's about.
So the story is told from the perspective of Joey, a 16-ish-year-old boy who lives in Michigan. He finds out that the father of a friend of his passed away suddenly. He goes to the funeral and Shiva with his parents. And that's kind of taking place over the backdrop of having started to learn about the Holocaust in his AP US history class. And he finds out about Kristallnacht for the first time. And all of those things kind of overlay as he's kind of watching a friend of his experience a formative moment that he understands he's not experiencing, but also getting the sense of what it looks like to grow up, in many, many facets of his identity.
Do many of your stories have Jewish themes?
Yeah, they tend to. I haven't been writing short stories for that long, so I'm still experimenting, but the Jewish themed stories have sort of feel like an area that I've fallen into that feels right to be writing about, I guess, right now. I suppose it could change. But a lot of my stories have Jewish themes. Sometimes themes related to other types of identity like age, and also a lot about family. So I'd say that's what comes up a lot in what I write about.
You from Michigan?
I went to journalism school in Chicago. That's like my biggest exposure to the Midwest. But I don't know what happened with it. It just sometimes you're thinking to yourself, like, what's this person? Like, where is this person from? And whatever pops into my head is usually what I'll go with. Because
Okay.
thinking, it's like it could go on forever.
Because my husband's grandparents are from Grand Rapids, so when I was reading, I was like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, I did look up. I opened the map. I was like, where is the synagogue? Where,
Mhm.
like, what other towns? I looked up that the cemetery thing. Like, it helps to have a starting point. It's helpful to be grounded in, like physical events and locations to kind of figure out how it all fits together.
Who are some authors that have been influential in your work?
One author is Chaim Potok. I've probably read The Chosen, I probably read it like every 5 years. I've read it many times. I love how his stories are really specific, like very Jewish, very American, and very specific to a certain era of American Jewish life. Another author is Jhumpa Lahiri, who writes about, who has written about Indian culture in an American context and questions of assimilation and preservation, also in a way that feels kind of Jewish to me, funnily enough. And a third author I would say is Lois Lowry, whose books I read back in middle school. I haven't read them that recently. Well, I read The Giver pretty periodically also, but I still think about her books today, even though I read them so long ago.
And what are you working on now?
Working on a lot of stuff. I've started a lot of things. A lot of my stories, yeah, they're in early early draft stages, but have many of the themes I spoke about, Jewish American life, family. But I'm learning that to take, for a story to get to final stage, it can take years. Like I've only been writing for a few years, like writing fiction specifically for a few years, but it still is taking years to finish these pieces. Sometimes you just need to put it down for months at a time and come back to it with a better eye of like, what needs to change. I have a really great writing group that has helped me kind of focus my stories and gives me a sense of what's working or what I've underexplained or overexplained. So the whole process just takes a long time, but a bunch of things, I guess, are underway.
Is this something you do full time?
No, this is a hobby. I took a few like distance fiction writing classes starting in early 2021. So kind of a year-ish into COVID. And it was just, at a time when there wasn't a lot to do outside of the house, it was a nice way to kind of connect with other people over shared interest and get used to workshopping my stories and looking at other people's stories critically. And it's now that, life is, more physically, like more engaging, I suppose, at this end of COVID. It's nice to still have this type of continuity with people who share the interest.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And congratulations again.
Thanks so much.